Okay, to begin today, we need to start with just a couple of conversations before we start coding anything. Want to forget, don't want to forget about some of the simple things that we sometimes ignore or get pushed to the back of our mind, and we don't think about them really. One of the things is check and make sure we have the necessary braces taken care of. Fortunately, most of our IDEs now do that for us. But even some of the IDEs we use, when you've got several functions and methods and you got all these calls and if statements and while statements, sometimes it's just you kind of get lost and can't figure out which is where and what you need to do. So make sure that you've got a brace to open and close every block that you write. Very commonly I see people after an if statement, after they create the condition for the if statement, they forget to open a block. Sometimes they'll forget to open and close it. Sometimes they'll forget to open it, and sometimes they'll forget to close it. So certainly when we're starting these if and while statements, make sure that we do the right thing. Another thing that we do sometimes is, you forget to press the shift key. And you'll press instead of pressing the semicolon, you'll press the shift key and get a colon. So that's another thing that we need to be careful about. So yet again, we've got to worry about things like for Boolean values, especially, we got to watch how we write that. So we don't want to be redundant. We want to make our code easy to read and careful. And so, sometimes we'll do things like this. We'll let's just make a new class and we'll call it test, and we won't do anything with it. We'll just we'll call it example. We're not going to actually write the code for this. I'm just going to use this to show you to make a point. So I might do something like if, and then I'll put even is equal to true, and then on the next line I'll say here's my statement. That's a redundant statement that we really don't need. So what we can do is we can simply go if even, because that means if even is true. So that relieves that redundancy there. It makes our code a lot easier to read. And we sometimes get difficult to detect errors if we put the equal sign, because sometimes we're not checking to see if it's really equal. Sometimes we'll put the assignment operator rather than the equal operator. So it's just easier if we leave that equal out completely and just say whatever it is true. Another thing is sometimes we have what's called a dangling else. We'll leave an else with nothing to do. So we'll have an if statement, and then we'll have a nested if, and we'll put the else inside of there. And what happens is, let me show you. So we'll have if even, and then we'll say if, and whatever my other statement is, if dog, and so we'll have that statement there, and we'll put that if statement in there, and then we'll put system dot out println, and then we'll put whatever our statement is inside of here. Oops. All right, so then we'll do that, and then we'll come over here, and instead of, we want to put our else statement here. We want to put the else statement here, but sometimes we'll make the mistake and put the else statement here. So what happens is we want to make this the condition here if and else for this if, but if we put it back here, because remember white space does matter to Java, if we put it back here, we run the else for this if rather than for this if. So we got to be careful about these dangling elses. Let's see what else. we have what's called an equality test of two floating point values. Because remember, floating points have a limited precision in calculations. So calculations involving floating point numbers can introduce round-off errors. So if I'm trying to test equality of two floating point values, we can't reliably do that. We might say that 1.0 minus 0.1 minus 0.1 minus 0.1 minus 0.1 minus 0.1, and then we might say, we call x is equal to that value, and then we check out where x is, and we use equal assignment operator to 0.5. So x is not, if I'm using these floating point values, x is not exactly 0.5, but it's 0.5 and like 14 zeros and then 1. So that's really not going to evaluate to true. So especially when we're doing these equality, these floating point values, these doubles, we've got to be careful about how we do it. Very often we should not use the double value, or what we should do is we should round it off, introduce our own rounding statements to take care of that. But we got to be careful anytime we're using doubles, and very often, here's another thing we have to watch out for. Sometimes we'll put duplicate code in different cases. So, we'll duplicate a code that doesn't need to be duplicated because we copy it over and we don't make the change after we make the copy. So we're going to be careful when we do things like that. All right, so the next topic, programming topic we need to talk about is generating random numbers. And random numbers come out of the mathed out random. Alexa, no. You can use the mathed out random command to get a random value. So I can say I'll have to import, son of a gun, import math.random. Okay, and here I'll import java.util.scanner. It'd help if I'd do this too. Huh. All right, so let's say, let's do this. Public class subtraction quiz. And we're going to put this up here. Make sure we get our braces right. I don't want to screw that up. Alright, so we got our braces here, and then we're going to say public static void main, and we're going to declare our string with our braces and args. Okay, and we're going to open up our brace, and we're going to close our brace, and then I'll come over here. So I'm checking braces all the time to make sure I got it where I want to be, and I'm going to say the first thing I want to do is let's see, I'm going to want to generate 2 random single digit integers. So to do that, I can do int. Let's do this. Let me go back here. Let's do int. We're going to call this num1, and we're going to say num1 is equal to int. Oops, how about putting in parentheses there? Int, int, and then we're going to say math. Oops. math dot random and then I'm going to put a multiplication value of 10 in here, and then I'm going to close that and then put my semicolon. I'm going to say int num2, and I'm going to make that equal to, once again, an int, and I'm going to declare math.random, and I'm going to multiply that by 10 and close that and make that there. So that gives me two random single digit integers. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to want to check to see if the first number is less than the second number. I want to swap them so that I get a value, a positive value. So if num num 1 is less than num2, I want to swap num1 with num2. Okay. All right. So where's the code for that? So let me think about this. So I'm going to say that if num1 is less than num2. So there's my if statement. Let me close that, open my brace, come down here, close my brace, and go back up here and put my statements inside this if statement, if clause. All right, so if number 1 is less than number 2, I'm going to want to swap number 1 with number 2. So I'm going to create a temporary variable that's going to hold that number, and I'm going to say, I'm going to assign number 1 to that one, num1, and I'm going to close that statement. Then I'm going to say num1, I'm going to assign what variable, the number that was in num2. Okay, so now I've got num2's value in num1. So now I've got to repopulate num2 with the value that's in temp. So num2 would be, I'm going to assign the temp value to that. Right? Let me think about this. Yeah, okay, I got that right. So now I've got number 2 and number 1 if that, so that one's greater than the other. And I can get out of here. All right, so I'm going to come down here. So now I've got those numbers set up. So I'm going to say here, I want the student to answer what is number 1 minus number 2. So the user is going to enter answer to what is number 1 minus number 2. What is number 1 minus number 2, right? All right. So now I'm going to have to, I'm going to begin by telling the system.out.print, and I don't want print run here, I want just print. I'm going to say I'm going to say what is, and put that there. Then I'm going to concatenate num1, because that's the bigger number, and then concatenate this with the plus symbol. Or are we doing subtraction? Yeah, we're doing subtraction here, so we'll use the minus symbol. Minus. I'll need a space after minus. and I'll concatenate num2, right? And then I'm going to concatenate a question mark. Oh, idiot. Question mark. And then close that. Okay, does that look right to me? Minus num2. Okay, all right. So now I'm going to get the user input, and I'm going to say, let's see, scanner, and we'll call this, just for the sake of it, input. And we're going to assign that value the new scanner, create a new scanner that's going to read from the keyboard, so it's going to be system stm.in, and then I'm going to close that, and all right, so new system in, so I'm going to say int answer, and I'm going to assign that the input value, input, which is the next integer entered by the user, next int assigned by the user. All right, have I done that right? Yeah, okay. Okay, so now I've got the user's input to what's the value, so I've got to grade the answer now. So I'm going to grade ADE answer and display the result, right? Okay. So the big thing here is we're talking about using the math random to get a random number generated. So here, for the answer, I'm going to say, if it's correct, we do this. If not, we do the other. So I'm going to say if number 1, num1 minus num2 is equal to the user's answer. Okay, so I can do that, and I've got a number 1 is equal to the user's answer. Okay, so we're going to say system.out.println. That should be a println, yeah. And so we'll put inside this, we'll say correct, and make him excited because he got the correct answer, right? All right, so, oh, you know what I forgot? Yeah, my braces. Oh, did I tell you not to forget the braces? Yeah, I guess we forgot it. All right, so we're going to close it with a brace. All right, so if it's out, print correct, right? And make sure I put the semicolon in there, right? So else, and that else belongs, to this if. So let's put this back here, else. So if they didn't get it right, oh wait, it's not correct. I need to close this. No, I don't need this here, do I? I need it here. No, I do need it here. So else would be okay. And then I can put system.out.println. And I can say, we're going to say wrong. Okay. So we're going to put that there. We're going to say system.out.println, and inside the parentheses, we're going to say it should be, and then we're going to concatenate. And we'll put the correct value here, which is number 1 minus number 2. Okay, and we should close that with another parentheses, and that should work now. All right, let's see. Let's compile it and see if we get any errors. See what it did. Errors, 2 errors. Okay. What did I do? Why does it expect it? Let's see if I do this. Let's put this here. You have to be kidding me. Is this thing not working? So let's put it here. Erase there and compile it. One error here, so let's see what our error is. Where is it expected? Oh man, what did I forget? Semicolon expected. Where did I forget my semicolon? Args, there's a semicolon, there's a semicolon. Yeah, okay, those are semicolons. System out print, there's a semicolon, print line in. There. Let's see. Why is it not highlighting the... What am I forgetting, folks? Okay, well, this is pretty bad here because let's try this. Let's just, we're calling the math over there anyway, so I don't need to import it. So let's do this. Let's try to compile that. Ah, there it was. There it was. Okay, so this should run, right? All right, let's see what we got. All right, what is 6 minus 0? Let's say it's 4. Wrong, it should be 6. Okay, so let's play this again. I guess I should have just coded it to play again, but I didn't. All right, so what is 4 minus 0? And let's say that it's 4. Correct. Okay. All right, so there you go. Once again, the whole thing, the whole reason we did this was to demonstrate the generation of random numbers using math.random. So you'll be able to use that in some of the things that we're going to do a little bit later on. I've got a handout for you guys to work a little bit later. Just a couple of problems. One of them is calculating the body mass index, and you'll be able to use this, some of this information to generate. I don't think you need to use random numbers for that, but certainly I want you to pay attention to braces and brackets and where they go and what you do inside the code. Also, next thing I want to talk about here is logical operators. Oh, I do want to talk about one thing else one other thing, excuse me, it's the system.exit status part of the system class. So if you invoke the system.exit and then in parentheses you put status, that terminates the program. So let's go back over here, and after we run this, we're going to say, we're going to go here, we're going to return, and we're just going to type system.out, and then we're going to put inside of our parameter list status. Okay, and we're going to compile that. Let's see, it's a method. I'm going to finish that with a semicolon. All right, let's compile it, make sure I did that right. No, I didn't do wrong now. That should work. Let's just try it without the status. Let's just try system.out, compile that. All right, now let's run it. Let's close this and run it. Oh wait, one error. Method out. What the heck? Do I need to create the static variable? Yeah, I would have to, let's see. I'm not going to do it, but what you would have to do is you'd have to use the scanner to input a yes or no. And if the system and assign the status as 1 being exit and 2 return. So I guess I shouldn't introduce that now, but I was just thinking about it. Okay. I think I could do this by, just humor me for a second. Let me do this. Let's do this. Let's do system.out, and we'll put a 0 in here because I think that means, if I remember this right, that this means to terminate it normally. So let's see if that works. Compile it. Gonna find symbol method out, but it's part of the system protocol, so you should be. Oh, system exit. You're an idiot, Dan. All right, system exit. All right, now let's compile it. No syntax errors. All right, so we might be good to go finally. So let's do this. Void main. Let's get out of here. And let's say, what is 4 minus 3? And we're going to say 2. And oh, it's the virtual machine is terminated. So now that's what I wanted to show you actually. That terminates it. And remember how I used to leave that virtual machine running all the time? What is 9 minus 6? That was wrong. Let's make this right. 9 minus 6 is 3, I hope. And so it should terminate it after it runs the machine. So that's a pretty handy thing to use sometimes, the system.exit. 0 and .exit means that it's terminated normally. A non-zero status means that it's abnormally terminated. And you could fill that value to, you could populate that status in your code. So if it's run normally and everything's correct, if you get the correct value, you put a system out 0. If there's an error problem, you put system out, system exit 1 or 2 or 3 or whatever it is. Okay? And just kind of as a refresher here, or something that you might want to remember, you should always write just a little bit of code and test it. And that's kind of what I do over here. You take these classes, you generate a temporary class, you write it in there. If it works, you put it back into the class, into the program you're working on. And that way you checked each little bit of code before you go out there and write a whole bunch of stuff and can't find your issue. And so it's called incremental development and testing. And this approach is really the way that you should code, because it makes testing easier. Because if you're going to make a mistake, you're probably going to make it in the new code. But sometimes you'll put that code, you'll bury it so deep in the program that you don't realize what you've done. All right, so we're going to talk a bit about logical operators, and there are other places. You guys should know that the exclamation point means not, and it negates whatever comes after it, right? If I have double ampersands, that means and then if I have double pipes, it means or, and then let's see. This is very similar to C++. So, all right, see if I can remember this. The operator, if something would evaluate to true, it makes it false. If something would evaluate to false, it makes it true. So it means the opposite. Okay. The AND operator, which is the double ampersand operator in Java, the condition, if you're evaluating two things like cat and dog, then both cat and dog have to be true. If either one is false, then it's false. Same for the pipe operator. The pipe operator means that's the OR statement. So if one of the operands is true, if cat is true or dog is true, then it would evaluate to true. So you got to be careful what to do. Okay, so then there's a table in your online that I will put on the Moodle page. It's called logical operator table in Java, and I'll put that out there so that you can take a look at that. And I think you should be good to go after that. I think I've got 2 problems for you to work that'll be due Monday, and then we'll go over a couple of things a little bit later on. We're going to want you to type a couple of other simple programs over the weekend. I don't think we need to talk about anything else. Let me look through my notes here, make sure that we don't have to talk about anything else. Let's see, I don't see anything else that I want to talk about before. Oh yeah, there is actually. But we've done enough today, and you've got enough information to complete these problems. So we'll talk about the others. I'll put them in a little screencast over the weekend. But right now we've all got enough to worry about.